Today I'm joined by Dave Morton. Dave is the founder and CEO of Fitch and Leeds, which is a bespoke beverage business. So welcome, Dave.
Thank you very much, Simon.
Um, Dave, look, thank you for joining us today. I'd like to start off with just finding out a little bit about your business. So tell us a little bit about Fitch and Leeds.
Right. Well, we're very blessed to have Fitch and Leeds on our shores here. Fitch and Leeds is a global brand initiated about 25 years ago in Cape Town in South Africa, exported across numerous continents, Africa, Middle East, and now here in the United Kingdom and Ireland and Europe. Um, we saw an opportunity for Fitch and Leeds playing in the premium sort of category, drinks category, mixer drinks category in the marketplace, and identified exactly where we really wanted to position the brand. And so far, we launched in March last year and have participated across 10, 12 trade shows, creating the necessary brand awareness. We've subsequent, obviously, listed with major buying groups and participated in across their platforms and their corporate trade shows. And we focusing primarily in the on-trade. Retail will come as it has as we've rolled out across other continents. Retail is a natural progression from the consumer demand. But here we are, and we're excited to be here.
Yeah, excellent, thank you very much. And look, the actual sort of product that is mixers, isn't it? Have I got that correct, Dave?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, and actually, I've got to say at this point, one of my favourite drinks is one that you've got on your website, which is the wild turkey and Indian tonic with bitters and orange. It's one of my favourite drinks, so I love
Lovely.
that one. So people should definitely check that one out. So look, Dave, tell us a little bit more about how you became a business owner. Was it something that you always wanted to do? Did you just fall into it? How did you become a business owner?
Simon, I started off as a business owner uh, back in my youth when I was probably 19, 20 years of age. I saw opportunities in South Africa, and I had a frozen seafood company out there for 14 years. And now, obviously, living here, it was a natural progression. And I think it's the entrepreneurial flair will never leave you. You know, it's in the blood. Um, the risks that one has to take and endure through being business owners, and then the rewards. So I think, there's definitely a balance, and uh, the product positioned itself extremely well in the market, and competing in a first world market here. I saw and identified many challenges, having to obviously move away from what it was customary to dealing being seafood into a completely new realm of mixer drink category, and it excited me because a lot of research was put in to ensure that I had the necessary knowledge in the marketplace, identifying uh, various channels in the market and competitors' activities. Um, we have an exceptional marketing support behind the brand. So I think from a price point and from certainly from a service delivery point of view, we were able to identify where we could tick the boxes and certainly succeed in this category. It is a very well-established category with brands that have been synonymous in the industry for the last 25, 30 years. But the excitement for me was the innovation behind Fitch and Leeds. There's a lovely book called written by Marcus Sheridan, They Ask You Answer.
Yeah, I love that book. Yeah,
And that's exactly what we did. So
yeah,
we asked, they asked, and we answered. And the flavor components in the Fitch and Leeds categories are quite special. Um, it says what it says on the can. If it's a blueberry and cardamom tonic, it's blue. And we also have a very unique QR code which allows all the users to scan the QR code, whether it's a general consumer or an on-trade bartender, and they simply scan that QR code and they're taken across to a mixology recipe, video content, pairing advice. So your favorite tipple that you mentioned just now, we've worked with 130 pouring partners of premium brands, and we have all of the assets and images of those, along with our brand ambassador, actually fulfilling a mixology masterclass. So it's quite special, actually.
Yeah. So why for you do you feel that you enjoy being a business owner? I mean, you mentioned there about innovation, but being a business owner isn't for everyone. What is it that you enjoy about being a business owner, Dave?
We work 7 days a week, Simon.
Okay, well,
And
and you enjoy that? That's what you
yes,
enjoy, or
yeah.
okay?
Yes, and we identify the family time and the special time, and we identify where we are able to enjoy that, and at times we don't need to fill in a sick leave or a leave form. So what really excites me is if I have to travel across the country up north and see a customer, I will do a bit of sightseeing in between and give myself that the few hours sort of break after the trade shows or after the appointments. It's just, the industry is it's quite diverse across the United Kingdom and of course Ireland, and it's just being able to identify and chat to people, chat to consumers, and gain first-hand knowledge from them on their flavor combinations, on their preferred pairing, and everything else. And I think what's really come out of it was one of my first customers here in Sevenoaks was the Vine Cricket Club, who I'm a member of, and Marvin, the general manager, was really kind enough to take in the full range of Fitch and Leedes, and allowing the first wholesaler in London to come on board. Obviously, a lot of these customers around Sevenoaks and Kent are now being serviced through Mason Maurice in London. There are numerous other wholesalers that we have who are coming on board. We identify primary events, and I love participating in these sort of premium events. Um, in Henley Regatta or polo or boat shows. Uh, we really know where the brand deserves to be seated and to collaborate, who to collaborate with, and in order to obviously increase the brand awareness across the consumers and allow them to enjoy these flavors. The last polo event we did last year, it was wonderful. All the ladies were walking around with their goblets of G&Ts, and one had a pink and one had grapefruit and the other one had the blue, and it was a whole mirage of colors. And yeah, I think it's just a very rewarding. Having your own business is extremely rewarding. It allows you to engage, and it allows you to share your passion. And every buyer I speak to says to me, Dave, you don't stop talking, you're just passionate about your brand. And that's what it
Oh,
is,
that definitely comes through, Dave.
really. Thank you.
That you love the brand, you love the industry, you love being a business owner. So, what would you say has been the biggest challenge that you've faced being a business owner?
Well, I must be honest. It would be fantastic if I had a team of sales reps assisting me and calling on all the individual on-trade pubs, hotels, hospitality industry. Um, but for myself, one of the biggest challenges was establishing a brand in a country that, although I've been familiar trading and working in, it's still relatively new. In a completely different category. You're now talking to different channel buyers within the channels, and you're having to build those relationships from scratch, because it is a completely different industry to what I was accustomed to. But product knowledge is everything, and I think if you're completely confident and brazen about your approach and and understand and do the necessary research into the various sort of channels that you are pitching to. I think it's just it's exactly the same for somebody who would be working for a particular brand and have his necessary core cycle sheets. I draw up my own sheets. I have my own trackers. I do absolutely everything by the book. I'm very analytical, and I'm a driver and expressive, and so every single part of my journey is identical to anybody else who would be working for a corporate.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So okay, so you mentioned there that one of the biggest challenges was or is establishing that brand, and you mentioned earlier that there's other well-established brands out there. So how what have you done to overcome that? To overcome that, to create that awareness of the brand within the UK? Because as you say, it's a global brand, so it's well known elsewhere. But how have you overcome that issue of establishing that brand in the UK?
Simon, I think it's identifying the customer's needs and working within the communities, especially in the UK. And primarily this is exactly how the brand started. Initially it was sold into hospitality, and then the activations needed to follow through, and the pull through, the sales pull through needed to follow through, and the assistance with sports days and parasols and ice buckets and all the necessary waiter on aprons, and everybody dressed the part, and the branded apparel, all of that forms part of it, but primarily working in the communities and sharing the passion for sustainability. So we moved away from glass 10 years ago, and we're really pleased about that. And a lot of people are sharing, a lot of the buyers are sharing this now with us with the EPR laws coming in. Glass disposal costs for the on-trade are costly. The logistics and warehousing and transportation of glass is costly. And honestly, our cans are infinitely recyclable. It suits various industries, whether it be cruise lines, whether it be the travel, retail, airline industry, and on trade, to be honest, because that can gets recycled and is back on the shelf in some other form within 3 months.
Yeah.
So we have listened. They've asked, and we've listened, and we've come back with reputable solutions, and again working within the communities, working within their needs, and identifying their needs, whether it be charitable causes. We're very very big on the ocean clean the ocean campaigns, um, keeping our oceans clean from plastic and pollution. So in Africa, for example, we have a charitable campaign for Save the African Penguin. So for every can that's sold, they have now saved over 7,500 penguins in the last 6 months,
Cool.
and that's exactly where we are. And we we identified working with our premium spirit partners as a collaboration, allowing them to shine. We don't Fitch and Leeds is there to complement the artisanal spirits. And a lot of these distilleries work really, really hard. And our mixes, we're very fortunate. So we have a typical G&T, or we have a ginger ale, which pairs extremely well with a whiskey or a rum. We have lemonade, sodas. The blue tonic goes very well with a Caribbean style white rum, for example. So we have a lovely range. Again, whether that cocktail is with alcohol or not with alcohol, we don't call them mocktails. We continue with the cocktail realm, and whether somebody chooses to have a 0% alcohol in their cocktail or nothing at all, we allow them to enjoy the flavors, and socially, understanding where the Gen Z is right now and all the other sort of categories, we're quite comfortable with our range fitting those most of those markets.
What I'm picking up from this, Dave, is that the key thing here is really understanding that market. To establish the brand in the UK is understanding what the consumers want, understanding what the premium sort of drinks want in terms of the mixers that complement there. So it's really understanding that market and the needs of that market. That's what I've understood from what you've said. Have I picked that up correctly?
Yes, certainly, Simon. I've researched and obviously, put a lot of time. And it does, for any business owner, you have to understand that it's the books that you read at night. It's the market intelligence, whether it's with the assistance of AI or not, it doesn't matter. It's about throwing everything in, but quality time, Simon. It's you need to identify where you have your family time and where you have your business time. But if you breathe the business and you live it and you enjoy the passion so much that it exudes in every appointment and every platform, whether you're at a trade show talking to a member of the public or whether you're talking to a corporate buyer, it doesn't matter.
And I love that, and that that passion shines through. So, what would you say your biggest learning since you've been in business has been, Dave? What's the one thing that you think has been right? That's been my biggest learning.
Simon, probably I was unfortunate to rupture my Achilles tendon playing paddle tennis, and I had a moon boot on, and having to travel around to all the various trade shows around the UK last year was quite a challenge. But I think um, we needed to participate in almost all of the trade shows in order to identify which ones we were really, we found the best value
Yeah.
and the best value for money, to be honest, because those trade shows, as you know, don't come cheap. So you almost have your marketing budget in year one is diluted, and we kept a lot of it in house, and again with the marketing support, a lot of apparel was sent over. Um, I think some of the industry trade shows now are my biggest learning curve is we're participating with an event company in London in May at Olympia at the Signature Serve, and I think the identifying and having all the respective buyers in one place under one roof is far more beneficial for a business owner who wants to jump in at the opportunity and participate in most of the food and drink trade shows around the UK. You need to identify what best works for you. And yes, it is important for the brand to be positioned in the north as it is in the south. But there are trade shows that allow that platform. The NRB in Manchester, for example, is one of the primary platforms for that in the north. We participated at Scott Hart in Glasgow, and they've done an exceptional job. Likewise, like we did with Belfast. There was a learning curve for us in Belfast. The deposit return scheme on the can, the DRS, there's a little wee logo that goes on the can next to the barcode. That was a learning curve for us because we went into Belfast knowing Northern Ireland's part of Great Britain. We were good, but the rest of Ireland had a DRS requirement, which we were unaware of. Now, subsequent to that, we've obviously added it on the can, but these are the things you learn. And I think that was probably one of the biggest learning curves for us because we hadn't identified or pre-identified the DRS. So I was caught off guard when one of the buyers said to me, "Oh, you can't sell this in the Republic now." And I
Look, a
said, "Oh
couple of
dear."
things there. I think the first thing that you mentioned there is, yeah, look, identifying where the majority of your market is going to be. So you were saying that, right, selecting the right trade shows, right? What are the trade shows that the majority of the people that will use our products or will communicate about our products, where will they be? And being specific, pinpointing that. So I think that's a great thing. And then, yeah, as you mentioned earlier, knowing the market, doing the research is another great thing. So thanks for sharing that, Dave. So look, there's one question that I like to ask everybody that's kind enough to join me on this discussion, and that's this: what is the best advice that you would give to an 18-year-old you? So if you could go back and speak to yourself when you were 18, what would you say to yourself, Dave?
I'm not sorry at all, Simon, that I started my own business at the age of 19 or 20 and it was in seafood. I happen to have worked for probably one of the largest frozen food companies in South Africa. And I noticed the way their purchasing patterns were changing and I noticed the change with the chefs and the environment and some of the produce that they were able to get their hands on and some of the produce that they really, really wish they could get their hands on and almost purchase in one basket from a distributor. And I went out and I had a very good friend of mine owned a pizza restaurant, funny enough. And I sat down with him and I said, Guy, share with me your sort of problems and your experiences with some of the distributors that disappoints and share the wins. And he said to me, Dave, you're the first person that's come along and sat down with me to start a business. But he says, you're bloody clever because you've actually asked me for my cost prices and you've asked me for the challenges and everything else. And you're just going to go back and simply just open that door and you've got all the information you need. So I said, exactly, Guy. And that's probably one of the reasons why I'm sitting with you. And I value the input that you shared with me because you take that back and then you identify how your business can operate, how you can be different. And I think for me, if I was an 18-year-old starting right now, I'd probably be driving around just like I am with a boot full of stock and sharing it with everybody. But I've learned to listen more, Simon. And I think at the age of 18, 19, 20, you almost think you're able to conquer anything. And risk taking is just not an issue because you're invincible. But I think right now, this time around, I think everybody's has deserves a challenge and deserves the opportunity to run a business. But I think you need to learn to listen and listen to the elders and the people that have had the experience in the industry for the last 30, 35 years, because that's where you gain their knowledge. I mean, that's where it comes in firsthand. It's just, yeah.
I think that's a great bit of advice, Dave, because if people listen, they don't have to do what the people, like as you say, what the people have been in the industry. But by listening and speaking to loads of different people, as you did with the person that you spoke to, and listening to them, you can then choose and decide what you want to do. But you've listened to what other people have said. So I think listen is a great piece of advice there. And thank you for sharing that, Dave. So Dave, look, I really appreciate you taking the time to speak with me today and sharing more about your business and also your journey as well. So thank you very much.
Absolute pleasure. And thank you, Simon. It's been a great opportunity to share it with you.